Just a reminder, we will try to start the next presentation in 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
They just can't help themselves. I don't know the solution. It's going pretty well. But I think that's just fuels more fire. You didn't want me to answer. Yeah, well, that's what I told John. You don't want me to answer. I was like, listen, right here. And listen, man. Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah. The text is flowing. Yeah. He's like, I got you. I went right. And even there, that was great. I think that is the question. Why don't you break it? Why don't you fix one? If that's are the rates too heavy? I'm guessing. Why don't I mean because they feel that someone's bunch of residents. Why would I care about this? The city is actually welcoming shop. But if we did that, then we would mitigate so much of the work. We're saying more it would help the other building around. You wouldn't have any foundation. So we'll see. I guess we will. I am not optimistic at that point. I think that there's just made some orders for that. But it's not being said. I think that it's simply worth our time.
If I could please get everybody to sit down so we can get started on the next presentation. It is, yeah. For those in the back of the room, if you'd like to stay for the presentation, if you'd please come forward. We want to get started with this because we know a lot of people are very interested in hearing. Absolutely. I think I may do the same, yeah. Yeah, so I can see. Okay, thank you, everyone, for getting seated and your attention. This is going to be a presentation about issues related to the future of our golf course. It's important to state that no decision has been made. We have established an ad hoc committee that is looking into the issues, concerns, finances, how things would be done, and membership is going to be involved in this decision all along the way. The chair of this ad hoc committee that is looking specifically at these issues right now is Ed Brown. And Ed is the secretary of the board, as you know, but he brings really special talents to this position. I wanted to be sure everybody was aware of it. Ed began working on the golf course in 1990. And he served as the golf course superintendent, Allen's position, from 1995 to 2006. During his tenure, he played a role improving the course. He led the rebuilding of the greens to USGA specifications. He oversaw the installation of RBCC's first automatic irrigation system, and he directed the construction of 5 miles of concrete paths. In addition, Ed managed the installation of the new drainage systems throughout the course and handled the ongoing challenges of RBC's unique drainage needs, including managing the tides, no easy task, and the tide gates surrounding the property. After returning as a member in 2008, Ed continued to serve the club in many ways. He dedicated 6 years to committee service, 3 years as a board member, 2 years as secretary. We believe his long-standing commitment, both as a professional and as a member, is vital to this committee. Ed, would you please come up and speak?
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning again to everyone. Thank you for coming out on Labor Day weekend. So I'd like to talk to you briefly about the future of the golf course, how we got here, where we're at, and where we hope to go. So approximately 4 years ago, the golf committee got approval from the board to choose a golf course architect to design a conceptual plan for the golf course. Through that process, Joel Weiman, who's joined us today, has selected a plan and was developed. In the last 4 years, the plan has evolved into what you see today on the screen, which encompasses understanding the future of the course. In November of 24, the board appointed an ad hoc golf refurbishment committee who has since been hard at work. Now is a key priority and time to move forward in an organized way. We have reorganized the ad hoc committee to be more strategic. Today, we will give a status report on this project. We do not yet have a finalized plan. We have a concept. We have identified areas that we need to address for the future of our golf course. We will spend the coming months completing this analysis. We need to be able to strategically plan what we believe to be best to do for the future of the course and how best to get that done. It is a very heavy lift, and we will include input from the membership. We will do our best to consider everything necessary to produce a doable plan. Remember that most of this course is the original design from 1962. From this analysis so far, we've identified 3 areas that we must consider. First, the obligatory repair and replacement, which would include bunkers, tees, greens, bulkhead work, which is expected to be largely funded through the capital dues. Drainage issues, probably the most important. This encompasses 4 pieces: installing pump stations around the property to drain the golf course, interconnecting the ponds with piping to improve the speed of the drainage, enlarge the ponds to increase the holding capacity of these ponds, and then finally contour the golf course to push water to the pond so the water doesn't sit on the golf course. The third piece of this plan is to increase playability. No rough. If you've been in the rough recently, it's penal. This new plan would encompass virtually no rough. The capability to drive everywhere on the golf course. You can drive, you'll walk up to the first tee and the starter will say, please don't drive in the bunkers, please don't drive on the greens. That would be pretty nice. More flexibility in our tee boxes for playability. And then 0 entry bunkers similar to the ones that were just done on 15. I didn't realize Alan was going to be so popular in the first part of the membership meeting, but I'd like to introduce him because he will come up after Joel's presentation and answer any questions with me. So Alan Fitzgerald, CGCS, Certified Golf Course Superintendent and Master Greenskeeper. He is one of 35 people worldwide to hold Master Greenkeeper and Certified Golf Course Superintendent designations. He has over 25 years of experience managing and building world-class courses in the U.S. and abroad. He previously was the superintendent at Ledge Rock in Pennsylvania for nearly 2 decades and served as assistant superintendent at Pine Valley Golf Club in New Jersey, which is annually ranked the #1 course in the world. His expertise in advanced agronomy, turf innovation, and construction projects range from small-scale improvements to full 25 million facility builds. Recognized leader and mentor in the industry, past president of Central Pennsylvania's Golf Course Superintendents Association, and currently on the Eastern Shore Association of Golf Course Superintendents Board. He's an active member of the GCSA, which is the national organization of superintendents, and national and international conference speaker. He's honored as Golfdom's magazine Herb Graffitis Business Person of the Year in 2019 and a regular contributor to industry publications. Now I'd like to introduce Joel from Weiman Golf Design, who's going to give the presentation on the screens. Our golf course architect, Joel Weiman, has joined us today to provide an overview of his conceptual plan for our golf course that the club is currently considering. Both Joel and Rehoboth Beach Country Club have benefited from his 25 years of practical design build experience with McDonald & Son prior to forming Weiman Golf Design in 2023. Many of you perhaps already know him from your work at Western Shore Clubs. If you don't know him yet, Joel looks forward to meeting you later today or during our upcoming focus group meetings as we dive into the details of this involved project. So I'd like to thank Joel for coming here on Labor Day weekend and introduce Joel Weiman.
Hello. Thank you, everybody. It is Labor Day weekend. Thank you for giving me part of your Saturday. I've got a place at the beach, so it's not that bad. So my goal today is to give a 30,000-foot view of our conceptual plan. As Ed said, we're still in process. We've got a lot of work to do, but over the last few years, we've made some strides as far as where we can head and some of the technical issues as far as the drainage and the infrastructure. So this presentation should last about 15 minutes. We can have questions afterwards, and I will stick around. If you don't want to ask your question in front of the larger group, I'm happy to stick around afterwards and have a more detailed conversation about a detailed part of the plan if you care to. So first I'll introduce myself and the engineering firm that we've decided to partner with in our upcoming study. We will talk about the environmental challenges we have here at the property. I mean, we have an amazing setting. Looking out the windows here on the bay, what a blessing to be to have this location for our golf course. That does come with some challenges, environmental and also the infrastructure challenges. Like Ed mentioned, the golf course was built in the 60s. It's not a modern facility with modern infrastructure. We have some delayed maintenance and some delayed infrastructure investments to tackle to help offset some of the environmental concerns that we have. It's not all doom and gloom though. We do have some opportunities for our design and our engineering to solve some of these issues going forward. So a little bit about myself. As Ed mentioned, 25 years design build. I've had my own firm for about 3 years. I've always wanted to design golf courses ever since maybe the 8th grade when I was in middle school. They called it junior high back then, I'm not sure. I grew up in northern New York. Brutal winters, not really great for the golf business, but it was a crazy dream to want to design golf courses. But I went to Cornell University, got a degree in landscape architecture to chase that dream. This is my family. I was lucky I met my wife the first day there. And we now live in Olney, Maryland, which is in Montgomery County, the DC suburbs. And we have our 2 boys there. We play our golf at Argyle and Norbeck mostly. You can see this picture is a little bit dated here. All the pictures, it looks like all the pictures are going to come up all at one time, and that's okay. It's a little dated. This knucklehead in the blue shirt, he just graduated from high school a few months ago, and we just moved him into Cornell University about a week ago, so it's very exciting for me. He's only given me about 20 seconds of his time on the phone since he moved in. I can't get him to return a phone call, so as far as I know, he hasn't met his wife yet. But hopefully he's having a good time. We do a lot of work on the Western Shore, as Ed mentioned. Just a few select clubs to mention. That's Bethesda Country Club. This is our work at Woodmont North. Country Club of Fairfax. We're lucky to do a lot of work in Northern Virginia and all those neighboring clubs. This is Columbia Country Club. Their bunker renovation and also their turf conversion to Bermuda grass. This is Country Club of Maryland in Towson. We've got a lot of programs. In Philadelphia, we've got upcoming work at Elk Ridge Club in Baltimore. In the bottom right picture, that's Bellhaven. We break ground there in about a month and a half. So we're very fortunate to work at a lot of clubs within the Mid-Atlantic. But my office is really I-95 up and down. This is Cold Spring and North Shore of Long Island. This is Great Gatsby land. there on the Gold Coast of Long Island. We're actually working at the foot of a real-life castle, right, which is pretty cool. And I'll be there on Tuesday. You know, and this is a project we've got about 90% complete. This is Fisher Island. This is the tip of Miami all the way down at the bottom of I-95, where we're doing 9 holes actually on an island, which is, you know, if you think we've got logistical problems here, you know, think about the concerns of getting all of the materials and equipment on an island. So we're having a lot of fun, we're having a lot of success, and working with a lot of good projects. Most importantly to you, we have experience working on Eastern Shore properties that have challenging drainage. Okay, so our friends there, that plant on the left, that's Talbot Country Club. We work on their drainage continually year after year. That bottom picture, that's Prospect Bay Country Club. Next summer, we will make water run uphill for our friends at Prospect Bay. And then that picture top right, that's Eagles Landing. We partnered with the town of Ocean City to improve their flooding. We have a flood remediation program there. We get the public bids in next week. We're excited about that. A lot of the design strategies and techniques that we are implementing at Eagles Landing to help keep their floodwater at bay is what we're planning on implementing here at Rehoboth Beach Country Club. During that process, we partnered with a company called George Miles and Burr, GMB. They are the gold standard of flood remediation on the Eastern Shore. So not only at Eagles Landing, they also completed the design and engineering soup to nuts at Bayside Resort. That's functioning quite well. But when a local municipality or government wants to tackle some of the concerns that we have here on your property, they turn to GMB. Okay, so we're very fortunate to have them on our team as we study the drainage and the overall golf course infrastructure here in the coming months. So it's about 15 or 16 months ago that Alan and I reached out to the engineers there, and we had a site visit scheduled, and it just so happened the evening before that meeting, we had about an inch rain. So the engineer got to see the property at its most challenging. Okay, so there's Alan driving the engineer around, and that's what we're dealing with after about an inch rain. Okay, that's looking backwards. That's 18 T's looking backwards to 17. You can see the water's actually receded about 6 inches already there. We spent a lot of time talking about how to get the water off the property, obviously, manage the water and get it off, you know, at the tide gates surrounding the properties. That took a lot of our time that day. 14 Fairway, a chronic flooding issue since probably before Ed's time as superintendent. All these pictures are taken from that day, okay? And this is 18 looking towards the clubhouse. So we talked a lot about the environmental challenges, and we were able to get some background information. Again, that engineer deals with a lot of flooding with all of the local municipalities. And we've got a lot going, we have a lot to consider, right? Our high tides, our highest high tides, that water is getting higher, and the high tides are coming at us more frequently, okay? It is recorded, and it's a fact. Sea level is also rising, right? And if we need another kick in the pants, the ground in Delaware is actually sinking about 1.5 millimeters per year, right? So we're going down and the water's coming up. These two modeling issues here, you can see at 2 feet above high water, right? That golf course is probably unplayable that day, right? And maybe you would have compromised conditions a few days afterwards. But at 3 feet above mean high water, that bottom image, the golf course is impassable, okay? So we have to protect ourselves going forward. We have to manage the water, control it, take it, that's our job, that's why we're here, and that's why there's not houses here, and then discharge it properly and responsibly, all we're providing better playing conditions for the membership going forward. So as far as our challenges, you know, why are we having trouble with the increasing high tides and the increasing water elevation? Okay, it's that the golf course was built in the 60s. This is the image, I think this is downstairs in your chronological wall. That good storyboard leading down to the grill. Okay, Russell Roberts was your original architect. The golf course was renovated in the 90s by Brian Alt, cooperating with Ed. Okay, so we haven't had a significant renovation since the 90s, but the infrastructure as far as moving water was the original. Didn't have the advantages like they have at a newer course like Bayside. The challenges involve that the property is very flat. So those black lines on that plan, that is a topo line that show the change in elevation. Notice those lines are very few and far between, meaning our ground is very flat. The water has nowhere to go. Ed used the word pushing the water, right? That's a good term. We need more elevation to push the water. You would think we're at Rehoboth Beach Country Club, we've got beach sand underneath our property. Not so. It's very heavy and mucky. It does not drain very well. So we have to make sure that we provide the pipe and the grading to move the water. We can't rely on infiltration down through the profile. We have inadequate underground drainage and also surface drainage, so the water just sits and stagnates. That's what creates the turf loss. It's not the initial rain event, but it's the water staying in the root zone and boiling the plant and providing no oxygen if the profile is full of water. So that's what we have to tackle to give Alan the chance to not lose that turf, in those low pockets during the hot summer months. We have aging, compromised tide gates. Maybe they don't close, and they don't work in unison because they're at different elevations. So that was a big conversation piece with our engineer, and that would be part of our solution, as we tackle our infrastructure. And then we have the aging Gulf infrastructure. So tees or bunker drainage, bunker sand, for instance. That's a significant amount of money. It's about $4 million in non-drainage related improvements that the club should consider over the next few years. So if we're going to renovate the golf course, these components should find a home within that project scope. So what can be done? Again, not all doom and gloom. We have some opportunities. We can tackle these issues successfully. But it does require a comprehensive, holistic approach to tackle this work. The first thing that would be important is to interlink all of the pond systems together. So those magenta lines with the arrows, that would be larger piping interconnecting the ponds together in a spider web approach. That allows us to manage the water of the entire site in unison, in conjunction with the gate valves. So you notice they're all interconnected. That also provides Alan and his team redundancy in case one of the pipes gets compromised. Okay, so if we tie all the ponds together, we're going to have an opportunity to move water through the golf course more efficiently and level those ponds out and recover after a storm event in a more speedy manner. Secondly, the engineer plans on studying all of the gate valves, renovating, replacing 9 of the gate valves, and that would include 5 pumps. Right? We do have to pump water to move it out of this property, and that is part of the engineer's anticipated study for the property. This is what gets me excited. We're planning on enlarging the ponds and out-of-play areas. So we're going to two things, two potential improvements as we renovate and expand the ponds. Number one, we want to increase the storm capture and release of the water. So we've got these 17 areas where the ponds can be expanded. Now we don't want to expand these where they would hurt or hinder the playability or the enjoyment of the game, especially for the higher handicap players. So we're not going to create any island greens or any forced carries. We're going to try to take the ponds and expand them in out-of-play areas, for instance, in this crook here between the second and the third hole. So you can see this pond B expansion is what I highlighted here. By expanding this pond, we can increase the stormwater storage and slow release following a rainstorm. We can store 367,000 gallons of additional rainwater following a rain event in just this one pond expansion, right? That's very important to control the water and make sure that the water, as it's waiting to leave the property, is sitting in a pond footprint and not on a fairway footprint. Okay, that's very important. The second benefit is if we expand the ponds, that provides soil to lift the fairways and raise the elevations of the fairways. So within this footprint here, we can gather 12,000 cubic yards of material. So a cubic yard, you can picture that 3 by 3 by 3. I did the math when I was driving here. I forgot how many wheelbarrows it is, but it's a lot, right? Just to put it in perspective, 200-300 wheelbarrows, in a cubic yard. So then that material fills and raises the fairways to keep our in-play areas high and dry, to improve the turf conditioning, the recovery after storms, and provide protection as the stormwater might rise, the flooding continues to increase, our golf course will be higher and drier so we can play golf on those days. You can imagine when we put the leveler pipes in, the spiderweb design, and then we cut the dirt out of the ponds and we place it in the fairways, that's an invasive procedure and we're going to spoil the turf that's on the ground. Okay? The good thing is that there are now these new Bermuda grass. That was a very good question about the Bermuda grass earlier. There's a big difference between the common Bermuda that is a weed and the new hybrid varieties of iron cutter Bermuda grass that provides great playability, great green up, and a lot of turf density. So the turf here on the back lawn by 19, that is the iron-coated Bermuda that is more tolerant to salt water. So what we're proposing, you can see, Ed mentioned there's going to be we're not going to eliminate rough, but we're drastically going to reduce the amount of rough and have the fairway turf interconnect from hole to hole. You know, if you're a golf nerd, there's nothing better than holing out a putt, walking across short grass to peg your ball on the next tee to fire your tee ball when you have the honors, right? Life is good. So if we can have that kind of connection throughout the golf course, we can really create a new character, a new charming identity for the club. Rehoboth Beach Country Club is a core golf course, meaning all the holes are together and the development is on the outside. You know, compare that to Kings Creek, that is more of a development golf course where the holes string out throughout the property. So we want to take care of that because we have a core golf course. Let's have the holes talk to each other. Let's have it blend together to create a great experience, okay? Here's the key, is that the Bermuda grass is an environmentally friendly application to plant, okay? It requires less water, less fertilizer, less pesticides, less insecticides. So we can maintain that turf at a lower cost per acre. And if we can have a better effect, like that cool fairway lawn panel in 19, we'd be crazy not to plant as many acres of this cost-effective grass as possible, okay? And have a better of effect going forward. So if you're a high handicap player, that means that you can putt and chip around the greens. There's going to be less rough along the fairways. We're not going to dumb down the experience if you're a better player here in the room. We're just going to give you more strategies, more line of play off the tee, more recovery options around the fairway. Maybe you want to hit a flop shot. Maybe you want to putt it. You know, sometimes with the better players, you can just, paralysis by analysis, right? We can really get in their head that way. But for everyone, we're going to have a more beautiful, charming, and character-filled golf course and golf course experience. We got a glimpse of that on the 15th hole. That was one of the reasons that we wanted to modify the 15th hole, all the new fairway grass. That front right bunker looked mean from the tee. It's easy to get in, it's easy to extract your ball, but there's a lot of room to miss the ball to the left, and then the higher handicap can putt and chip, you know, get on in two putt for their bogey. We call it the bogey route for the high handicapper play. One of the big components here, it's kind of buried underneath this picture, one of the big components here is when we interconnected the canal system, you know the small pond on 14 where it always would flood. And if you remember, last time you played on 15, we took that small canal and we connected it to the body of water in front of the 13th green. What we found is, and it's just a smaller version of what we want to do throughout the golf course, that significantly improved the drainage in the 14th fairway following a rain event, okay? You'll notice that as you play following a rain in the spring. We're very excited about that point. However, it doesn't completely solve the problem because we have a lot of tidal flooding. Let's see, you know, it's buried under here. We have a lot of tidal flooding to the right of the 14th hole that chases across when the storm surge comes, okay? When our tidal floods inundate the golf course. That same flooding is a big chronic issue behind the 15th tee and the 16th fairway. You can see the 16th fairway here. This was just last week. It wasn't rain event. It was just flooding that pushed into the property. Here's an image here on 16. So that kind of shows us that yes, we can interconnect the ponds and we can dig the ponds out, but we also have to fill the fairways to help mitigate that flooding. We just need a higher elevation, especially on a hole like 14 or a hole like 16. And Woodmont Country Club, the South Course, we renovated that about 2 years ago. And I've used this as an example of what the finishes could look like here at Rehoboth Beach Country Club. It has Bermuda grass fairways. It has these easy entry bunkers. And you're going to notice some of the similarities on these images compared to what we recently tackled with Alan and his team, who worked their butts off all winter long on that hole. You know, but they had a lot of fun doing it. Alan's like a big kid. It's really fun, and his energy is contagious with his staff. It's really fun to see. But just a few examples. You notice here we've got our bold fairway bunkering, and our short grass fairway grass that touches that bunker. The bunkers are a little bit larger. They come into play, but the fairways are so wide that if you're a high handicap player, you can navigate your way around these bunkers. You can see they're more organically shaped. Little tufts of fine fescue here in out-of-play areas. It's hard to get to those because they're raised islands. Tees that flow into fairways bordered by some native grass that's out of play. You know, and just an overall nice presentation, a bold presentation. And you think, oh my gosh, these bunkers look so scary. I'm not going to be able to play these, all that sand flash. It's really difficult to play. One thing to keep in mind at Woodmont, we're very fortunate we just hosted the Adaptive Open, the USJ's event for those with handicaps or disabilities. A great event. If you don't know anything about it, do some research. Woodmont hosted it this last summer, and they will again next year. So we're getting people with disabilities in these bunkers. We're getting wheelchairs into these bunkers, right? So these are an accessible, playable, user-friendly bunkering. They just have that nice, attractive, for lack of a better term, good sex appeal as you stand on the tee or on the fairway looking into the green. As far as the playability, we don't want to build a golf course. We're not going to host a US Open, right? Tiger and Phil aren't going to battle on the back nine for a big trophy here. We want to make sure that we have a golf course that remains fun and enjoyable for our membership. One way we can do that is just have proper placement of the tees. Ed mentioned flexibility of the tees, and that's important. One thing I want to draw to your attention, right now we call it the length distribution. That's just the delta, or the difference between the back tees and the forward tees as far as yardage. Right now, your club champion at the club is playing a golf course that's less than 1,600 yards longer than the highest of the high handicappers here at the club, right? That spread is not enough. Our minimum, when we create a master plan like this, is 1,800, but that's our minimum, so we're well under that. Usually we try to get to 2,500 yards. Within our schematic master plan, again, we've got a lot of work to do over the next few months. We're up to the 2,400 yards because we're adding length for the back tees, and we're shortening the golf course for the forward tees. If you like your 100-yard golf course that you play now, that will still be preserved. But we want to spread the yardage, cast a really wide net, and then we can make sure that all the members are enjoying the day, or enjoying the round, because they're playing a tee that's appropriate for their skill level. Okay, so that's a very easy thing to do when you already have the tee grass planted everywhere, like on 19, and those tees over there. So as far as our timeline, we're really just kind of getting started. We actually sent some emails. We were bothering the engineer early this morning. We're excited to get going on some more of the detailed design. We will have some focus groups in the future. We'll have a lot of membership communication. At that time, we'll be able to have a competitive bid process with contractors in the early spring, and we'll be able to have firm pricing. So we are anticipating coming back to a larger membership-wide group like this in the summer of 2026. And with that time, that we'll have a lot of the details as far as potential implementation scenarios and the costs that are involved after the contractor pricing is coming in. We just don't have a lot of those answers just yet. Someone said it's a big lift. We've got a lot of work to do between now and then, but when we come back to you, we will be prepared, and we will have a firm vision of what this project will take to get in the ground. Saying that, if we do get approval from the membership to go ahead, we then have to submit for permits. Usually that's about a 15 to 18 month process. We have to secure the contractors. We have to secure the grass, the iron cutter fields that's grown in Salisbury, Maryland. You know, there's a lot of work to be done. So we probably wouldn't start construction or break ground if everything goes perfectly until the fall of 2028. So it's not right around the corner, but these things take a lot of time and a lot of planning to have a flawless and smooth implementation. So that is my presentation. Again, thanks for giving me part of your Saturday. Happy to answer questions now or afterwards if you care to.
Thank you, Joel. We'll take questions in a second here. A couple closing statements. Now that the board has gained a deeper understanding of the flooding and drainage challenges we face and fully recognize the severity of these issues, they have approved funding to bring experts and engineers in on this project. Their role will be to thoroughly assess the property, identify what we don't know yet, and provide the critical guidance that we need to make informed decisions about the future sustainability of the golf course and the success of the club. Once we receive this guidance from the engineering reports, we anticipate the contracts to go out to bid in the spring of '26 so that we can receive projected numbers for the project, start focus groups with the hope that this can be voted on by the membership in the summer of '26. In the meantime, we will continue to update you in board briefs as information becomes available to us. With the engineering due diligence, it is our hope we can turn the difficulty of our drainage challenges into an opportunity to enhance the playability of our already sought-after golf course. As stewards of Rehoboth Beach Country Club, we are committed to ensuring our multi-generational members a stronger future and the protection of our most valuable asset at the most desired waterfront location. So at that time, we will take any questions that you may have. Chris.
I'm just curious, you did the first renovation years back. When you're talking about pulling fill out of the ponds to adjust the level of the golf course, have we done any learnings in that to know whether we've got clay or, because the pricing, do we use all of that fill, are we sure? Because if not, you're going to go off site and that's going to probably blow your budget.
So it's a combination of the inside the ponds and then outside. What Joel gave an example of on number 2, it's basically that fine fescue area left of the 2 fairway. That whole area becomes a pond. So that part of the golf course, for those of you who don't know, this property before it was a golf course was a farm. That part of the golf course, that dirt is fine. There will probably be some areas where that dirt won't be suitable to grow grass on immediately. It will have to be laid out, dried, probably some of the first areas that we dig out. But areas like 2, that material could be used right away. So some of it might be buried as well to create elevation, and then we cap it with better fill.
How much cubic yard are you looking for? What do you think you need?
So that chart there, it's 87,000 yards is, again, conceptual. We haven't gotten into the detailed grading plan. But it's not like we're building a shopping plaza or a high-rise where you have to worry about compaction. Golf course compaction is 85%. As Ed said, once it comes out of the hole, we stack it, it dries, and we blade it out into the fairways. It'll work just fine.
And I just have one more question again. Living right on Bald Eagle Creek, I sit there and watch the water crest over top of the road. Mm-hmm. So the pump stations and I've got one of the, what's it called, Ed, right next to me, one of the
Tie gates
that eject right next to my house. When that water is in total imbalance, I mean, you can't push the water anywhere. What happens to that water? Where are you pushing it to, and how does it get out?
Correct. So the golf course sits in a bowl surrounded by East Side and West Side Drive. In these scenarios like we had last week or 10 days ago, whatever that was, water's going to come in. So that's where, when Joel's talking about enlarging our ponds, you create a place to artificially hold the water. So it's not that we're going to stop the flooding. It just mitigate it. We can hold the water. Once the flooding goes down some, we can then pump it off. Alan will also have the ability to pre-pump water, which we do now. So when I was here on number 6 for the tennis players, we used to have a tractor back there that used to run a pump. It's now run electrically. So when we see storms coming, if you notice our ponds around 5, 4, 6, they get lower. Well, that pond is influenced by that one pump. Alan has the ability to lower that pond to take on water that we know is coming. So once we enlarge the ponds, we can take that water in. Once the tides recedes, then we have the ability to pump it off, and we don't have to wait for gravity.
Got it. Thank you. That makes sense.
See, I'm going to draw a comparison. I used to be a builder back in Washington, D.C. And as a builder, you focus so much on design, materials, the workmanship, the contractors, all the rest of the stuff, and you really focus on that. But the thing that makes a house when you're finished is the landscaping that goes on around it. That's the finishing touch on it. I'm wondering, Joel, if the strategic plan takes into consideration the possibility of beautifying our golf course more than it already is, such as the most beautiful golf course I've played around here is Baywood, I think, off 24. It's gorgeous. You can't take your eyes off the landscape all around it. Does this plan take it into consideration the possibility of landscaping it to the point in time where there's annual, perennial, and it's more beautiful than it is right now?
Great question. And I like the spirit of the question. One part that we had in the presentation that kind of, when the slides didn't stack, we talked about trees. When we had a focus group, raise your hand if you're one of the ladies that was Bless you for sitting through that presentation twice. Thank you for that. I appreciate your patience. We had a few questions about, and the men as well, the following day, we had a few questions about the trees that were going to be removed, right? This is not going to be an Oakmont Country Club clear cut the property, right? We're going to preserve and protect all the trees that we can, especially the loblollies, the tall pines on the back nine, the very majestic, very peaceful, beautiful. That's part of the finishing that you talked about. What I really love about the renovation on 15, it's the right side of the 15th green, how the short grass spills off to the right, and then it ties right into the pine straw bed to the right? And that's kind of a fun, Pat, right? It's a little fun. You can kind of pinch that shot and have a recovery shot back into the green. So when we have good success with a renovation, we get the visual definition. That's something that Alan had mentioned previously in the question and answer at the bigger meeting. We're going to get the visual definition, one with a little bit of fine fescue grass, right? That's that taller grass that I showed from Woodmont. Secondly, we're going to preserve all the trees that we can. We're going to use the pine straw in those areas to create the visual definition from the fairways to that nice orange color of the pine straw itself. We'd like to rely on that a little bit more than the like flower beds and annuals that do require a little bit more upkeep. We're going to have more of that closer to home base here at the clubhouse, but when you get out to the back part of the property, we'd like it to feel a little bit more historic, a little bit more rugged, and less refined. The refined and the plant material, the flowers that you mentioned, like a bay would happen here closer to the clubhouse. But when we get out there, we're going to rely on our trees, our pine straw, our fine fescue, and then we're going to creatively contour the ground, and the ripples and the rolls and the wrinkles in the ground will be showcased and highlighted better because it'll be mown at 1/3 of an inch at fairway height. That's the beauty that we're going to have on the golf course. The little wrinkles and shadows cut to fairway height throughout the property. Long answer to a short question, but yes, that is a concern. Yeah. So Columbia is a good example, and we'd like to do this here as well. I use an expression, improvement through subtraction, right? Improvement through subtraction and creating like a simple elegance throughout the property. So sometimes a property or the landscape can be improved when you remove things, not add them. And Columbia is a good example. Get rid of the ball washers and the stone paths and the stone walls that don't hold anything up in the flowers, and just let the golf course, the great ground at Columbia, speak to the experience. And I think we can do that here as well.
Mike? Question about construction period. If we're talking about 28 for beginning a project, are you looking at doing the entire project, which I would guess would be less expensive to do it all at one time, or is this a multi-year project?
The short answer to that short question is we don't know yet. Okay. There's two options on the table. One is over 2 years. One is closing the course down for 9 months, starting the day after Labor Day. So neither of them have been decided on. There are cost consequences to both of them. Doing it over 2 years is about an extra $1 million. Doing it from September to June, July timeframe is a gamble with the playability of with the workability of the weather, and that if the weather were to cooperate in getting all that work done, that again, that comes into selecting contractors. If you did Joel and I had this conversation this morning. If we selected a contractor to do that project, he would have to be large enough to move all the dirt that needs to be moved in the fall months. So we're not playing with dirt in the mud, because you can't play with dirt in the mud. Yeah. Neither of them have been, we're still evaluating, and this is the start of the process, and that's what over the next 9 months we're going to be doing, evaluating what's going to be the best solution for us.
That'd be challenging to put piping through the entire course in 2 stations.
Yes. And holding dirt, because you might dig a pond somewhere that is going to be used somewhere else.
Yep. But regardless, we were planning on sodding. All of the improvements would be sodded to help facilitate the grow in and shorten the grow in, and so we can get back playing golf, and our operating hit will be reduced in that manner.
Well, we'll take a Zoom question, and then we're gonna go to Mr. McBride and then to Mrs. Bateman. Wait, Mr. McBride, we'll take one on Zoom, and then we'll go to you.
There's a Zoom question.
It actually had to do with the timeline for completing the extensive renovations and how long the course would be closed. So it was pretty close to what you just spoke about. However, one comment that I want to make is if you are going to be speaking, please use a microphone because those on Zoom cannot hear what you are saying and or asking. So I'm trying to give them updates, but we want to make sure that they can hear what's being asked or said in the room.
Jim?
Are we talking about you're going to raise around the ponds, or are we talking about raise the whole property?
Mainly the fairways, right? Or playing areas.
Yeah, the short grass.
Well, pretty much everywhere. I mean, wouldn't it be a waste of time just to do around the ponds and not raise everything up?
It would be the fairways primarily. The outer Ross would probably not get raised because, again, we want to preserve the trees that are here.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, sorry.
I had a couple of questions. In reference to 15, which seems to be the direction that you're going, also 19, for instance, on the right side of the bunker on 15, and now it looks like you've done the same around 19, it looks like what you planted are weeds. And it's very rough and impossible if your ball went there to get out of. And also in reference to the trees, I have been told by, looking at this schematic that you intend to take out a lot of the deciduous trees that have been on the property for 60-some years and put in loblolly instead. And you mentioned yourself, Joel, about the diversity of the course. And I'm very curious to hear whether or not you intend to leave such a diverse canopy that we have that makes it so attractive.
Yep, good question.
And then one more,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You got it.
One more thing is I'm concerned about if you make the different holes more linked together, as you mentioned, which we're an enclosed situation. So if you enlarge the ponds, you've got less probable playable area that a lot of people who are long ball hitters, those balls go far astray. And so they are more likely to go into a neighboring fairway as opposed to into the rough in between them.
Okay. The rough in between the holes are really where the ponds are being expanded. So I don't anticipate any additional safety issues when the ponds are being enlarged or built. The second question, was an evergreen, right? That's the loblolly, and then we have our hardwoods, which are like a maple or an oak out there on the golf course. So I use the pines as an example because of the pine straw underneath it to provide the visual definition. If it's a hardwood out there on the golf course, it will not be targeted for removal, right? So those would stay and be preserved. We have a parkland golf course now. We're going to maintain that look and feel throughout the property. The vertical nature of a tree provides nice framing, the visual definition, and also the shot value, and it protects the golf course from scoring for the better players. So just because it has leaves and not needles, it doesn't mean it's going to be removed. We did account that we actually are proposing to plant more trees than we are removing, right? Again, it's still conceptual, but I can safely make that promise to you now, and we'll have that count later on in the process. We will be planting more trees on the property. One, to address some safety issues, one to screen maybe some undesirable outside views, but also to protect some key trees at the inside of the dogleg. We call them starter trees, to make sure that the golf course functions if we do lose a key tree out there on the golf course. Your first question was the fine fescue grass along the bunker edges. To each their own, right? This is an artistic venture. I'm very proud of how number 19 looks myself, right? I think it's a beautiful look. The goal is to have the fine fescue be on we call that at the brow of the bunker over there. We're going to work on this is almost like an experiment to make sure that we get the look we want without making it too overly difficult for the players. So we will figure our way through that. Our goal is to not have any unplayable conditions for a well-struck shot, a reasonably well-struck shot close to the hole. But it's a good comment, and we're working our way through that as we go through the process.
Any other questions?
Where you are right now in the planning, can you give us an idea of how much mitigation you think you're going to have relative to the storms that we get, like before the engineering, or do you need to really wait for the engineering on that?
I don't have the right letters after my name to answer that question. We will have that information when we reconvene next year. But our goal is to set us up for success immediately and also decades into the future. Yeah, we're modeling for the future as we renovate and improve the golf course.
I had a question about the timeline. I know that in general, you're really striving towards this 9-month plan of closing versus the 2-year plan, and there's some obvious cost savings there. I'm wondering, when we say 9 months, can you give more of a scale? Like ideally, it's going to be 9 months, but what's the back end of that?
So I'll answer that for Joel. So both plans start the day after Labor Day. That probably means contractors come in August and start mobilizing equipment. But then the part of the golf course would close. We would plan the day after Labor Day, whether that's 9 holes, some concept of 9 holes, so contractors have a place to work. At some point, if you did the entire project, the entire golf course would close at some point mid-October, early November, to allow the rest of the golf course to be dug up and the dirt moved, which is the important part of the project, that probably the most paramount, especially doing it during the dry time. As Alan's learned the last couple of years, trying to move dirt in the springtime around here is not very good. So then once the dirt's moved, then you can then put drain lines in, you can put bunker sand in, and then ideally you would put start putting the sod down sometime March, April, May. That, this year with 15, I think we had the sod down for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then it was playable. It wasn't perfect, but it was playable. So that opens your golf course with probably normal weather conditions sometime in June to July if you did the whole project. Now, if you only did 9 holes, we're going to close some portion of the golf course. Now, when I say 9 holes, that might mean you play 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 18, or something like that, and the rest of the golf course is closed. Because the logistics, which we haven't got into yet, is going to determine that. And that's still a decision that has to be made. There's other factors, the clubhouse, the revenue in the clubhouse, how many people are going to, and questions from the focus groups. How many of you will come use the club if you can only play 9 holes or can't play the golf course at all? So those are questions that impact the entire club. So, and none of those decisions have been made.
Okay. My second question had to do with the courts area. I don't know, it's a major renovation for the club. We're moving a lot of dirt. There are problems over at the courts. The courts are very popular with pickleball, with tennis. There's not nearly enough parking. We share that area with the maintenance crew, which is significant. Wondering if any consideration has been thought about to possibly move some of the maintenance area to another area of the course so that the rackets could actually function well with enough parking that would be suitable for the amount of people that are coming.
Nothing's been discussed other than maybe help drain some of the areas over by the parking at this point. Certainly can look to address some of these issues and concerns. Again, we have a 150-acre property that has a lot of amenities on it, and trying to share all the space in just 150. Normally 150 acres is just small enough for an 18-hole golf course, not including the clubhouse, the parking, tennis, a pool, all those other, plus the maintenance facility. all those amenities and things that we need here on the property are on that 150, which is normally just what you use for a golf course. So it's a balance. We can certainly look into it, and we'll see in the tennis committee.
We'll take 2 questions from Zoom. By the way, we have 25 participants on Zoom.
So the first question is, if the pond at end of 14 is expanded, how would that drain near Westside Drive? And to what extent are you working with Sussex County and DelDOT on the bay side into the creek on the bay side?
So to expanding the pond on 14 towards the green hasn't been decided. It's still a concept. This happened with the previous architect, Brian Alt. I brought it to Joel's attention as well. That was in the original plan with Brian Alt as well. But believe it or not, the fairway pond is higher than the greenside pond. So the concept of the green draining to the fairway pond isn't feasible. Now, whether we do something with that hasn't been determined. As far as addressing the Sussex County Conservation District, that's where we would go to get all our permits to do all this work. JMB, I would assume that the tie gate location will be a location for one of the pumping stations. Again, JMB is going to do the engineering work on that. We have no idea what he's going to do and what that's going to look like. So, again, all things that we are considering, but at this point, we don't have answers to that.
A comment came in for that same question from the same person that asked and just said referring to pond behind 14.
Right. So that's all tied together. Yes.
Thank you.
I think in the plan that pond gets enlarged as well, but that will be a pumping station location, I would assume. But again, what that looks like, J&B, again, we've just initiated their services and we don't have any of those engineering drawings yet.
He said, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I have my second question from Zoom is, can Joel address the question of wayward shots more easily rolling onto other fairways and delaying play if there is less rough?
Good concern. We do, when we do interconnect things, we do get that comment or that question early on in the process. It is possible that the ball may roll out a little bit further here and there. We're going to do our best to redirect our play as far as bunker placement, the length and the line where the tees are located. We're going to create more flexibility with the tee locations, get people to have every opportunity to put themselves in position A. Saying that an errant shot is an errant shot. And when we design a golf course like this, there are design setbacks and parameters that we will follow from hole to hole, make sure that we follow the rules.
So a question, I know ideally when you hit the ball, it's supposed to go in the fairway. However, for some of us that don't, it seems that when it's going off the fairway, lately it's been impossible to find your ball. And there's nothing around, it's just the grass is so high. Is there a reason it's being kept so high?
So and I'll answer this for you, Alan. So it's not that it's so high. You might find at times it's high because we couldn't get equipment on the golf course. I would tell you it's healthier and more dense, and that's what you're seeing. It's not that it's taller, it's just more dense. In this plan, there will be a lot more or a lot less of this rough. So, and more in areas that are out of area, play areas. So you're not going to have to deal with that as much, or at least that's the plan at this point. But as of what we have out there on the golf course right now, I think some of it is not being able to get equipment out there. I think he's had some equipment issues as well. Some of our equipment's older, but I think it's more healthier, it's more denser, and that's creating some of the issues that we're not used to here.
It's typically the Bermuda grass because it's almost wiry.
Correct. Well, that's the common Bermuda grass that was planted here in 1962. And what the Bermuda, as Joel and Alan have said, the iron cutter that we're planning to use is not that evasive. It's going to stay tighter.
Is there any of that in the rough now?
Iron cutter, no. So the iron cutter we're using right now would be on 18 fairway. There's some on 17 fairway by the fairway bunker, the middle of 14 fairway. So some of these areas, one of the things we're planning to do as well is put this in areas where we have a whole lot of common Bermuda and see how it reacts with it and see if it suffocates it, because it may do that and doesn't allow it to repopulate. Because if, for those of you who've been here more than 10 years or so, there were a couple projects, 2 fairway, 6 fairway, 7 fairway. They round up them 2 or 3 times trying to kill all the Bermuda grass and then planted it with bent grass. Well, 2 and 6 are pretty much now all common Bermuda grass, because there's just, you can't kill it. But we think the iron cutter, it will compete with it, especially in the playing areas. I think that,
How much of a cost premium would it be to finish in March or April?
so I'm not sure that it's even doable, because cutting the Bermuda grass at that time, it may not be able to do. That would be the ability for us to do that, is whether or not we can actually cut the grass. We can, but whether the weather still, the weather still around here in March is very unpredictable, and that's why trust me, if we can get the course open sooner, then that will happen. But I don't know that that's. We're talking 50 acres of sod. What's on the plan?
Yes.
Yeah. So 50 acres of sod. That's, I don't know how many tractor trailer loads. That's a whole bunch of them.
200 and I'm a nerd. 225
Yeah,
tractor trailer loads of grass.
So that's a lot of sod delay. And probably you're going to do maybe 20 a week, 25 a week. So you can do the math. That's months to get sod down just on the ground. If we can cut it and if it's prepared, just lay it out. But to your question, if we can get done sooner, that will certainly happen. It's just, we would rather prepare for the worst case scenario and then come in better than the worst case scenario. Because the worst case scenario is going to be costly financial for the entire club because of the impact it may have on the clubhouse revenue. Patrick.
This question's come up to me quite a bit, Joel, and I think there could be some misconception of, we're talking Bermuda grass in the fine turf areas. Can you speak to the rough? Because I think sometimes you get the common Bermuda thought, all our rough's going to be this common Bermuda where the ball's disappearing and we can't get it out. So if you could speak to that.
Right. So we're gonna try our best. The common Bermuda grass, that's the boogeyman, where the ball does nestle and it nestles right down into the bottom, and you just have to hack as hard as you can to extract it at all. We're going to do our best to eradicate that common Bermuda grass and get it off the property. Right. We don't want that to come back and compromise not only our fairway turf, but also our rough grass. So the rough grass, when we plant it, will be turf type tall fescue. Tall is just the name. It's not the fine fescue grass. So that is the typical rough that you see surrounding. Some people. It's like bluegrass. It is just the 2 or 2.25 inch rough that surrounds the grass. So when we are in the rough, it'll be clean rough grass, not the Bermuda. That will be replaced as well as we grade and shape and lift our in-play areas to alleviate the flooding pressure.
I'll add to that because that area of tall turf fescue area is going to be a much smaller acreage. We'll have the ability to spray it with Pylex. Yeah, that can kill the.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It controls it.
So we'll do our best to keep the common Bermuda grass in check before we start. That's a common thing. We did it at Columbia Country Club because once you sod the Bermuda, once you get the preferred Bermuda grass, it's really hard to eradicate the bad Bermuda grass, right? So you have to make sure that you do your best to eliminate the bad Bermuda grass before the new stuff gets planted.
So we'll go Zoom, then we'll go here, and then we'll go to Dr. Lackenbell.
So on Zoom, we have a question. What percentage of the golfers are considered low handicappers? It seems as if this plan is being done specifically to benefit low handicappers.
I'll answer the first part. So typically 10%, and this is a national stat, 10% of the golfing population is less than a 10 handicap. So it's the majority of the golfing members are higher handicap members. I'll let Joel answer the design aspect.
So I'm really interested to kind of sit down with some focus groups and kind of go through hole by hole. I think you'll find that that's not the case. We're going to have a lot of forward tees to make sure that everyone can enjoy their day and have a lot of fun. We're going to move the fairway bunkers in locations that challenge the better players and have wider, more generous fairways for the shorter hitters. And one thing that we can do that if you go through the plan that you'll see, the best way that we can make sure that the higher handicap players or the less accomplished players, the shorter hitters, can enjoy their day is opening up the fairway approaches. So when you think about it, when Mike plays, it's more of an aerial game, right? He's going to take a high lofted club, he's going to hit pin high on the green, it's going to spin and stick right on the green. It's an aerial attack, hopefully. For a higher handicap player, they might be further away. They're going to have a lower trajectory club. Maybe it's a hybrid, it's a 3-wood, it's a hybrid, it's a longer club in, and they have to run the ball onto the green. So the best thing we can do for the higher handicap players is open up the fairway approaches to let them scoot the ball onto the green. Think about the 17th approach is the one that I used in the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
That fairway approach, I think, is less than 5 paces wide. I can't remember the number.
That's about right.
It's very discriminating. It's great for Mike. He doesn't look at the fairway approach. He doesn't care about it. But for the higher handicap player that has to run the ball up thread that needle, well, it's a lot to ask. So we can make sure that we accommodate the better players without dumbing down the experience for the better players with the attention that we provide to the fairway approaches. So if you look through the plan, you're going to notice that we really are accommodating for the shorter hitter, the higher handicap hitter. My 2 boys that I showed on my first slide there, I taught them how to play the game of golf. I learned a lot during that experience, right? Golf is hard. It is it can be a frustrating thing, but once you get hooked, it'll change your life forever. We want to make sure that everyone out here can enjoy the round, enjoy the company, enjoy the exercise, the fresh air, and really kind of grow and enhance the game here at the club and, just golf in general. So.
And we do keep track, and we do keep the number in mind. Last time, Pat and I, we ran the average handicap for our golfers at the club was 19.1.
That's
So
the average. That's the average.
That's the average.
I just wanted to follow up on the question on the storage sheds to Joel and to the club. Has it been addressed about storage, maintenance, storage sheds? And is there an opportunity while you're in the planning stage to be creative and look at moving some of those into different areas within your plan that they don't impact the course and the golfability of the course, but at the same time may give you better deployability of equipment in different parts of the course, and also at the same time free up very valuable space that was brought up over at Rackets with no impact on the course?
Yep. I have not had those discussions with club leadership, the board, or my committees to this point.
And I'll take the second half of that answer. Remember when I said something in my presentation? That's why there's a master plan that needs to be looked at. Yes, this is a huge portion of it, but what else can be done and needs to be done?
Wait a minute. Wait till we get Jim Mike.
This is a minor question, but we talk about 19 and 15 as being the direction that we're going in. I don't only know about the ladies' tees, but putting a tee in the ground there, you need a hammer.
Correct. Yeah. So
How can we address that?
So that will take time. So during construction activities, the soil does get compacted. So as time goes on and we have time to aerify and aerate more and create more air, and that will soften up. So it's a short term. So maybe one of the things that we think about that for coming out of the construction, we have shorter tees. So, yeah. I
couldn't get it in.
Correct. Certainly something that, some of that will take time as we aerify. It will improve. I think 19's improved because 19 was like 15. And I think 15 was worse when it first opened than it is now. Sometimes it's where you are. It might be a certain spot in the tee. Correct. Yep.
You are right, though. It is a bugger. I understand. Yep.
I have a big strategic question for our architect. Given the fact that it looks like our golf course is in a bowl, kind of like New Orleans, and given the fact that it looks like we're going to have stronger storms, higher water levels, et cetera, is doing nothing an option? Or would this course face catastrophe in 5 to 10 years if we do nothing?
You want me to touch that one?
Please.
So drainage has always been an issue here I've been here since 1990. I've seen water where you wouldn't imagine I've seen water here. One time I happened to be in California and my assistants were telling me about it. I'm like, no, it's not. And the fifth bridge, which for those of you that have been here a while, used to be a floating bridge. Well, I was told that bridge was in the middle of 12th fairway. So I don't think it's going away. I think we need to address it. I don't think what we're planning is not going to stop Mother Nature from bringing the water on the golf course. What we're planning is mitigating the effects it has. Having the ability to take that water, put it in ponds, storing it, so when the tide level does go down, which it does, and it will, we can pump the water off faster and then not affect the golf course, get the golf course open. Raising the fairways, contouring the fairways, so that the water isn't on playability areas, but is in ponds or out of play areas. Those are the things I think that we can control. And I don't know, we will have to do something, and that will depend on what the membership wants to see next summer and when they have the opportunity to vote on it. So.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
We haven't talked about it much because it's just technical and it comes up once a year when we renew our insurance, but our flood zone here is AAE. If you're in the insurance business, you know that that's the closest you can get to water. AE means 1% annual chance. So everyone in the AE zone, they're in the once a century storm zone. And the base elevation height is 5 feet. So currently there's only one insurance company carrier carrying coastal clubs in our spot. One left.
Well, it's all through the FEMA flood program, which
Correct.
gets funded every year by the Congress. Dan, government.
This is just a question to try to clarify where we're going with the project over the long term. And Joel, I think you answered it for me at the one of the little meetings we had. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a softball for you, but I think it's important for the membership to hear. With the ground sinking and the water's rising, and we're in a bowl, what is our survival of this club if we do nothing? Okay, from a draining standpoint, and what increase survival of the club? How long do we keep the club going if we do this project? So what is our real benefit to this?
Yeah, so there's two issues. One is it catastrophic? We're going to lose the property, right? Not in our lifetime, right? However, the main improvement from this drainage program, from the grading and the tide gates and the drainage and the pipe and the pond excavation, is to quicken the recovery time following the storms. So we're going to be on the golf course more often, and when we do, we're going to be higher, drier, we're going to have better, firmer, faster, better playing conditions throughout. So, it's a better golf course. It's a more predictable golf course as far as maintenance for Alan and his team. And it's a better product day in and day out because we can control the water and the moisture and the turf conditions. It's in our hands, not Mother Nature's hands. So, and as far as the engineer, he'll be able to model our success in the future going forward. I mean, we're not qualified and we just don't have the information just yet, but we will have more of that data, this time next year.
We have one on Zoom.
If you are planning to start work in 2028, at what point will an assessment go into effect?
So the funding will be determined based on the cost, which we don't know. So, we mentioned earlier some of the third of the project or a third of the things, the bunkers, the tees. For example, the bunkers you see on the golf course I built. So they're over 25 years old. The average lifespan of a bunker is 15. So they're well overdue. All those things are funded through capital dues and are budgeted in our plan. So once we get the construction documents and go out to bid, we'll know exactly what the cost will be. We can then work with John McCooey and his finance committee and determine how we're going to fund it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh. Mm-hmm.
I think that there are many, many neighbors here on East Side and West Side who are golf members and would obviously see the benefit to themselves of the plan, but there are also a lot who are not. So I guess this is maybe more of a comment, but is there an outreach plan for the neighborhood to get buy-in? Because you're talking about 225 tractor trailers of sod going around the neighborhood and all this other disruption. So is there a plan for
Yes,
that?
so there's a living document that I've created, and one of the shareholders in that is both East Side and West Side homeowners. And talking with them, letting them, obviously, if, for example, if 16 Tygate is one of the places that we're gonna put some type of pumping station, we would obviously talk with those homeowners and West Side, what something like that's gonna look like, what it's gonna do, et cetera.
I think the concern would be, you talked about it being a bowl, and now you're raising the fairways, now you have an upside-down bowl.
No,
Right, so I think that's, I'm just saying, those are the kinds of
Yeah,
questions.
so the
you're gonna
property's
get
always gonna
from
be in a bowl,
everybody.
but what we're talking about is raising the playing areas, the fairways, to contour them so the water goes immediately into a pond.
Right.
So not onto another property.
Just, I think you're gonna have to have a lot of explaining to a lot of people who
That-
may or may not be golfers.
That's right.
Or even members.
With our initial consultation on our initial report from the engineer, he was very excited on how the golf course drainage and our scheme can improve the neighboring surrounding homes as well. So it's a win-win. So yes, there will be some, maybe some noise with the tractor trailers and things coming in, but it's a benefit to our neighboring properties once the club undergoes this renovation.
This information may already be out, so excuse my ignorance if it is. What is the estimated cost? I mean, have you are there any?
I wouldn't
proverbial wag.
I wouldn't want to put some number out there that's going to be inaccurate. There's just too much information to gather. I mean, we can just talk about the construction costs, but we don't have how that impacts the rest of the property. For example, if you're a tennis player, but if the golf course is closed, who's going to come here and use the facilities, come to dinner? That number could be drastically reduced. That's one of the things that the outreach program and the focus groups will be asking those questions. If we close for nine months and do 9 holes, or over 2 years, or 18 months, or 2 years, or 1 year, all those questions are out there. And that is correct, and we've decided not to reiterate those numbers because that's what they are complete estimates. We've hired an engineer from G&B to do the pump stations around here. We have no idea what that cost is and what that's going to entail and what that's going to look like. So it would be irresponsible of us to come up in this setting and tell you it's going to cost X when it might cost Y. So if we don't know if it's going to be over 2 years or over 1 year. That's a big, we've estimated that's $1 million just in that difference. So there's just too many variables. I can trust you and assure you that the membership will have full transparency, full cost of what this project will cost, and have an opportunity to vote on, hopefully next summer. That's our goal.
We'll go on Zoom again.
How many days per year do we currently lose use of the entire course due to flooding, not just a hole or two?
Yeah, I mean, if you can predict the future, you can answer that question, but I can't do that. I think this is looking long-term. I think the studies have shown as I said earlier, I've been here since 1990. Just last year we lost the 18th fairway and had to sod that fairway in-house and spend like $25,000 in sod. So is that what we want to continue to do in the future? Or do we want to plan for a better plan and have a solution to the long-term effects of the land sinking and the storms, rain, et cetera, flooding the golf course?
Not a number, but an answer is more days than we would like to.
Sure. So when we started the project to redo the golf greens to US spec greens, They were push-up greens, so they were made of the native soil that was on the property in 1962. And when we would have a thunderstorm in the summer, we would have to close the golf course down. So back in the 70s and 80s, that was a large loss of revenue. And that's why that project was done. So we could immediately, after a thunderstorm, go back out and play the golf course. Same concept. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.